I think that content creators underestimate how much time they waste with their content. I think that we could easily save a content creator 2 hours a day. If they're publishing daily, we're saving them 2 hours a day. And for some content creators, we're saving them 4 or 5 hours a day. Especially those that have funding and they have staff. And when we were talking with Ernest Hancock the other day, Ernest doesn't upload his own videos. It's his wife that does it.
Yeah. Donna, I've met her.
Like uploading videos. Right? Yeah, Donna. And she's like, how much time does your wife spend? And she's like, too much time. She said, she said, I have to go back to BitChute and make sure that it didn't fail to upload on BitChute. And like, you know what? I can liberate 3 or 4 hours of her time each day, and she can focus on doing more productive things.
Time is our greatest asset.
If you were going to think about censorship resistance and efficiency, that's what we're selling.
I'm moving house today. It's been 2 years, 8 months and 28 days, and I've got to say that as I step off the bus for what could be the last time spent as sitting in your boss supermarket queues, etc. And I have to say though, it's only today that I'm glad to be leaving. I really will miss the when Santa today I'm sad, but tomorrow I'll be glad when Santa.
You're listening to truthconduit.com with Chris McMillan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to truthconduit.com. This is another episode. Woohoo! So I've been plugging along, focusing on solutions. Okay. That's my thing. Solutions lately. So recently, I talked to Luis Palacios as an alternative to the evil empire of Google. Okay. Solutions. Yeah. Linux. Then before that, I was speaking with Lisa Manfredi about using whole life insurance to become your own banker. How do wealthy families keep it and never seem to go poor? These are financial secrets that are in plain sight. Great stuff. And then, of course, I spoke to John Bush about counter economics and the freedom cells networks going on. And so now I'm here with you, Matthew Raymer. You and your buddy Daryl Becker have come up with an amazing idea called Content Safe. And it is very promising. It's very exciting because there is a war against a lot of content creators right now with censorship and all the crap going on. So yeah, I've talked enough. I'm going to just let you kind of start by just explaining to people who may not have heard of it yet. What is Content Safe? And how does it help the content creators out there?
Well, I guess it's best to define content safe by what it is and by what it's not. Content safe is a content redistribution system. We take content that was published on one platform or more than one platform, and we redistribute it to other platforms. We are not a content platform. We don't stream videos. We don't provide a platform for people to view videos. That said, we aggregate data. So one of our goals outside of this content redistribution is to provide maybe video recommendation services and other types of services toward content creators to help them monetize and to stay visible to the public and to make sure that they don't get disappeared or memory hold.
Yeah. Memory hold, disappeared. So, okay, I'm a content creator. I come to you and I say, man, it's taken me forever. I'm trying to upload to YouTube, to BitChute, to library, to places like that. How can you help me? What do you got for me, man?
What I like to do with a content creator is I recognize that content creators are inherently creative people and they have their own way of doing things. I try not to present to them a one size fits all solution. I try to adapt to whatever they currently do. So if you publish to YouTube, we attempt to get your videos from YouTube to all these other platforms. If you were deplatformed from YouTube and you're now over on BitChute, we get your videos off of BitChute and we put them on the other places. We're even trying to do some shadow type accounts on YouTube, though I'm not really sure how effective those are. And I'm a bit skeptical about the future of YouTube for getting new viewers. So I think we're going to put less emphasis on that. But if a customer comes to me and says, well, that's what I really want, I want to get my videos back on YouTube, we're going to help them do it.
What is YouTube's problem, man?
Oh, to me, it's not really political. I think that if you go back, say 5-6 years ago, YouTube Red was out. I guess it was 6 years ago. And this was the early attempts to turn YouTube into Netflix.
Yeah.
And I don't think in this top-down model that there's any room for an independent content creator. They want everybody to be under contract and they want to be able to steer them whichever way that they want them to go. So there really is no content creator that is safe. They're all in danger. Not just the ones that talk about conspiracy theories, not just the ones that talk about alternate health, not just the ones that are dealing with political commentary. We're talking about people who do cooking shows and historical shows, whatever. They're all in danger because they do not want independent content creators.
Yeah, that's an interesting way. Yeah, I'm glad. The other day, it was you that put into my mind that idea that I had never really thought of that before. I thought the fact that YouTube, they want to kind of become the main thing. And the first clue I had was Cobra Kai. Okay. Cobra Kai Netflix got Cobra Kai and they had done 2 seasons already. And I thought, man, what is this crap? The Karate Kid. God, they're trying to bring back this cheesy crap. And it was the best show ever. It was great. I'm looking forward to season 3. It was something I could watch with my kids.
Yeah, I actually liked Cobra Kai.
Yeah, they did a great job.
I thought it was a good show.
Yeah, but my point was, I found out, it was originally aired on YouTube. It was a YouTube series. I thought, what? Okay, so that was my first clue that I didn't realize YouTube was even doing that kind of stuff. Very, very interesting. Yeah, it's going to be inevitable.
Yeah, I've been anticipating this. Before Content Safe, actually.
What, the crackdown on independent content creators or Cobra Kai?
Yes. No, I didn't anticipate Cobra Kai, but actually, like you said, it was really a good TV show. No, the whole thing about getting rid of independent creators, whenever I was looking at YouTube Red, like I said, 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, they're trying to kill off all these content creators. What else could you do? Well, why would you want an independent content creator if you're running off your own shows? And if you look at the early attempts at YouTube taking someone who made it big as a content creator, putting them under contract, there are horror stories about how the audiences all died away on these things because it lost what they wanted. And this is like I think this could be a case study in theory X, theory Y.
Are
you familiar with theory X, theory Y?
No, I'm not. But what you said reminded me of something. First, what is theory X, theory Y? And then I'll tell you my red flag with you too.
Okay. Theory X is top-down management. Theory Y is bottom-up management. And in academic studies of companies that try this, you find that companies that do bottom up management are much more efficient than companies that do top down management. Of all things, the US Navy Pacific Fleet adopted Theory Y about a decade or so ago. They've never switched back to Theory X. They saw a 400% increase in efficiency of operations.
Okay. Yeah. I did not put a name to that.
Adoption of Theory Y really is more a psychology thing than an economic thing. Companies reject it because psychologically they cannot accept the idea that it's possible that the bottom manage the company better than the top can.
Isn't Google an example of Theory Y?
At least initially it was.
Okay.
But I think what we're going to see now is a transition to a Theory X based company.
Yeah. And why do you think?
Look at the innovations of Google.
Yeah.
I think because it serves the 1% more than Theory Y serves the people at the bottom.
Yeah.
But the people at the top benefit from it, but they lose. Again, it's psychological. It's not economic.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I've never put a name. I knew I understand how companies can work either from the top down or the bottom up, but I guess I had not put a name to that. The Google then started, it was a free for all. I remember it was just YouTube. I meant YouTube, and it was amazing.
And that's
back
why
in
they
the day.
had explosive.
Yeah,
they had
it was
explosive
incredible.
growth.
In a minute, remind me, I want to talk about the alternative to YouTube. We'll get to that in a second. But I was going to say, I'll never forget the day that, we would sit Saturday night, we're hanging out, we're at friend's house, and we'll take turns on YouTube. Your song, you play a song, and we're like, yeah, this song reminds me, the drinks are flowing, it's good times. And then I remember when the commercial started, and suddenly it got interrupted with a commercial. And we're like, what? And we knew there was a sense of doom at that point. We just knew that this was the beginning of the end. And I remember, I'll never forget that, that particular night. In fact, that was the first time I'd seen a commercial on YouTube, and I saw where this was going. Okay. So what are the platforms? Where's everybody flocking to that are leaving YouTube?
Oh, well, the big one is BitChute. And right now, there really is nobody that's competing with BitChute, really. I mean, I know that there are a lot of alternatives, but the gap is huge. BitChute, Odyssey is coming onto the scene now. Float is coming onto the scene. Bright Eon is coming onto the scene. And NewTube. And there's dozens of these now. And it's just going to be... I guess, a settling process where you see how many of these survive.
Okay,
what about see a split in the audience?
What about Library and Odyssey? Now that is very interesting to me. And you also I don't know if you mentioned there was DTube as well. I haven't looked at DTube in forever.
Oh yeah, DTube. Mm-hmm,
yeah,
right. But DTube's been around since. Well, BitChute's been around a lot longer than most people realize.
Yeah,
it's been around, I guess, 5 or 6 years. But DTube's been around almost as long, and it had that sort of initial affiliation with Steemit, but they're not the same company. They're different.
I used to have a Steemit account. I was all excited about it, and I don't know, it just kind of fizzled out.
Raymer shot Steemit in the head. Whenever they launched the EOS blockchain, EOS is a very controversial blockchain because it really is administered by a small group of what they call block creators. And there's a lot of purists that think EOS is the devil. And I guess to some extent I agree. I think that there are certain pragmatic things about the EOS blockchain which are good in the short term.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see those things outstripped by better models like a federated model with Bitcoin and Lightning Network and or Ethereum for that matter. So anyway, back to video. I think that there's going to be a lot, but it's going to be a culling process. Though I constantly tell content creators that you shouldn't be trying to aim for a 10 million viewer audience. You should be trying to look for a core of 1,000 viewers who are willing to give you money.
Yeah.
And if you can get that 1,000 core that's willing to give you money, that's more than enough money for a single content creator to continue creating content. You don't have to be PewDiePie to be a content creator. You
Yeah.
just have to be good at what you do and have an audience that's willing to give you some funding. And I think that that's the way forward also for video platforms. If you've got enough monetization on a platform that you can keep a micro staff, a very light staff, funded and pay all your infrastructure, yeah, you could grow if it happens, it happens, and you explode. And like Jamie at Rockfin said, $1 billion media platform. Sure, if you could do it, why not? But I think that these smaller platforms need to be content with a few million of viewers and some monetization, and they become like the old town newspaper, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. They're just the Podunk news or Podunk Journal, right?
Well, the core competence of
I don't
all
mean
of
that.
these
No.
alternative platforms is, I'm speculating here, but your people are a lot more likely to get some more accurate, more truthful content,
Sure.
because there's a reality going on out there that people seem oblivious to. So anyone who's hungry for the truth will inevitably be veered toward these platforms, because you're not going to find it on YouTube anymore or the mainstream alternate media. You mentioned Jamie at Rockfin. He was with you when you were on the Union of the Unwanted last week with Ricky Varandas at the Ripple Effect. He was there with Rockfin, and I know Jason Burmis was going on and on about it. He was praising Rockfin a lot. And also, I believe the CEO of Library and Odyssey, they're kind of the same, was there as well. That's kind of leading to my question.
Well, they are the same.
That's what exactly is the difference? Because I have looked both of them up, and I believe I have to create two different accounts, if I recall.
Just branding. No, the same. If you got an account with Library, you can log into Odyssey. If you got an account at Odyssey, you can log into Library. It's the same company, it's the same infrastructure, but it's different branding.
Okay. Good, cool. I think that's definitely where I want to go. I've opened an account, but I haven't done anything with it. But I would like to get all of my interviews uploaded on there.
I just finished an uploader for Odyssey yesterday for Ricky. And my advice is I went ahead and wrote the uploader for Ricky, even though technically it wasn't really necessary to do it for Odyssey, because they have a really fantastic YouTube uploader. And if you onboard at the account creation process, you can put your channel in and it will get all your videos off your channel. But with Ricky, he's a special client for us, and he allowed us to use his channel as a test case for our uploader, which we're very grateful for. And
excellent.
But it's all supported by Content Safe, and I think Odyssey, I call it Odyssey Library, but I think Odyssey is a great platform, and I've looked at their infrastructure because it's all open source, and I really think they've done a great thing. I think they provided something that was missing from the market, and I wish them the best of luck in making it work. Though I must admit that I do think in the long run, what is going to be the most beneficial for everybody is a completely decentralized, not owned by anybody video platform. One that is, you can get the videos, it doesn't pass through any corporate lawyers or anything. It's just out there. That's going to be a challenge. because that's not easy. There are technologies like IPFS that lets you share files, but that's not the only thing you need to be able to share a file. You need to be able to people to find you, right? So you need some sort of web page, and how's that going to get hosted? Ultimately, those things end up being in the hands of an individual. Whereas IPFS itself can exist without a centralized server, web pages have to be maintained, search indexes have to be maintained. We're going to have to see whole new paradigms, or maybe not new, maybe we're going to have to see the development of existing paradigms that would allow for decentralized search and finding of content.
Where there's a will, there's a way. And there
Oh,
are
absolutely.
millions of people who think that all action should be voluntary and everything should be decentralized, who will likely push all this in that direction. I'm looking forward to seeing the innovations that come out of all of this. In a way, the globalists have done us a favor. They're bringing out the best of us. No more excuses. We've got to be innovative. We've got to be resilient, and it's happening.
Well, looking at this kind of from a philosophical standpoint, there is this idea of technology, or as my favorite sociologist put it, technique. See, in the early 20th century, there was a school of thought started by, I don't know, you talk to the academics and they say it was started by a French philosopher by the name of Charbonneau. But I would argue that there might be some evidence that it came from Heidegger before it came from Charbonneau. Though the Charbonneau scholars would say I'm an idiot. But of course, that's the way the French react to everybody. I say that because I've actually had this conversation with a Charbonneau scholar. And
just kidding.
That's okay. Yeah. So anyway, this idea of technique, if you don't mind me going off on this for a bit.
Go for it.
Okay. The idea behind technique is that of efficiency. And one of the acolytes or co-thought people of Charbonneau was a guy by the name of Jaques Ellul, which you may have heard of.
I have not. I am learning. Propaganda. I love it. I'm learning from you, Matthew. Keep teaching.
Jaques Ellul is used quite frequently, especially in the early 2000s movements of the alt community, because he had a book on propaganda. He also had a book on technology. In fact, most people in the alt community don't know that he had 50 books, and they all revolved around this concept of technique. And he defined technique as efficiency, not just machine technology. Technique was techniques. So if I were going to talk about overthrowing a government by way of a coup, that is a technique. Or if I was going to talk about lowering the cost of food by making everything synthetic, that's a technique. And Ellul's view was that techniques were self-propagating. In other words, they weren't controlled by human beings. Human beings were the implementers of them, but because of the nature of humans, there's no way that you can stop techniques from proliferating. Now, the reason I say that is because we look at this often from a standpoint of the elite controlling things. Ellul explicitly said that the elite were terrified because they understood that this was completely out of their control, and they were trying to bring it under their control. So you get people like Aldous Huxley in Brave New World. What does Huxley imagine? He imagines a completely technologically static society.
From a more biological standpoint, as juxtaposed to Orwell's point of view.
Right. But if you read Brave New World, it was also not just biology, it was also technology in general. It was just a completely stasis society. And the brother of Aldous, Julian, wrote the foreword to Ellul's book, or he endorsed it. He
Interesting.
endorsed
Yeah.
Ellul's book on technology. And what Julian said, which is very interesting, he said Ellul understood the problem of technique better than anyone else in the world during his time, and he only disagreed with Ellul's conclusion. And Ellul's conclusion is that we can't control technology, and we're going to end up destroying ourselves by technology. And guess who had a copy of Ellul's book in his bookshelf?
Bill Gates.
No, the Unabomber.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going to find out more about this guy and include him in the links for this interview. Absolutely. I can't believe I haven't.
Well, you can find most of his stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
You can find those two works on the internet.
I definitely know about Julius Huxley and Aldous Huxley, and their connections to MK Ultra. There are connections there, and all of that, weaving web of, the what was it? Who's the artist? I'm thinking of the modern day, the brain model, but who? Lombardi. Do you remember Mark Lombardi? Yeah.
Okay, sure.
That I still, his brilliant works, even though the brain models are beautiful, but that's a pretty dark ending though, so technology is just going to destroy us.
Well,
is that it?
I should go ahead and say though that in some later interviews, because there was a period of my life where I just immersed myself in Ellul stuff. So I haven't read all of his works. I've read about 5 or 6 of his books out of the 50, but I read a lot of the articles and interviews with him. Toward the end of his life, in an interview, he admitted that he had deliberately cast his early work as negative. And the reason was, at that time, post-World War II, he said everybody believed that these structures and institutions were going to bring about a utopia. And he said it was very difficult to get someone to listen to the idea that these things were not all rainbows and unicorns, that there were problems that came along with the technology. In fact, this is one, because he was also a Christian, so he had some religious works, about 50-50, secular, religious. And one of his, we call it his seminal work. It was called The Presence of the Kingdom. He makes the point that these technologies, how we would say the ends justify the means?
Yeah.
Right? He would say the means consume the ends. In other words, in this technological society, there is no purpose anymore except proliferation of technology. But later in life, sorry, I got kind of off track there.
No worries.
Later in life, he said in this interview that he had noticed, because he was teaching at the, I think it was the University of Bordeaux, if I remember right. And he said that he had people coming to him in the 1970s, that were desperate, that they were hopeless. And he said it was at that point he needed to shift his focus. He said now people are convinced that this isn't a utopia. So now we need to bring them hope. And before he died in the 90s, he saw the personal computer as a potential ray of hope.
Yeah.
Because he died before the internet went commercial, right?
I'm glad I asked and elaborated that towards a bit of optimism there, Matthew.
Yeah.
The pursuit of utopia.
Later in life, he did try to get.
Yeah. The pursuit of utopia is, in fact, a very misleading thing, as I've learned from our buddy Daniel McCarthy. What is considered utopia is just it's more like them trying to look for utopia is not at all what it appears to be. Not at all. In fact,
right, and
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think that often the pursuit of utopia is only for a select few.
Yeah.
And trying to get a utopia that works for everybody is impossible. We have to learn to accept that there are struggles and that actually human beings are creatures that need challenges.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I look at the current situation we're in as there's no better time to be alive than right now.
Yeah, there are definitely silver linings to the current situation. It's gonna bring out the best in us if we choose so. Or you can just kind of disappear and fall into the folds. People now are faced with a choice. Yeah, Daniel McCarthy made me laugh. He said, "You hear the phrase for the greater good, you better run the other way." Of course, the version of that we're hearing now all the time is we're all in this together, and that is the
Right.
utopian propaganda coming through. And yeah, run the other way. Do not accept it.
What was that? What was that movie that they? What was that movie that for the greater good? It was.
Oh, I mean,
There was
pick
a
any science
movie
fiction
that
movie
had.
back there. I don't know. They're
No,
all
it was
about
actually
that.
a comedy satire.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was a comedy satire. It was. I'll remember it later.
Yeah. And you
Yeah,
see it
I'll remember it
everywhere.
later.
Once you start learning about these ideas of utopia and everything else, and you turn on a typical movie, Netflix, Hollywood, all that, you just start to see it. It becomes more and more evident, the subtle messages that are coming through. The yeah, the situation now. I like what you said. I like your optimism, Matthew. I agree. That's what I keep saying. Now is the time. These are the times that try men's souls, right?
Well, if we look at just the internet itself offered something that previous societies tried to prevent, which was the free sharing of information. A lot of us don't even know that in order to print a book, one had to have a license from the crown to print a book,
Yeah, doesn't
right?
surprise me. Of course, yeah, of course.
Copyright came about. Copyright came about not for intellectual property, but for censorship. That's what copyright was originally about.
Yeah, it's all about control, isn't
So
it?
we've got this distributed peer-to-peer sort of internet that's very, very, very hard to police. It's very hard to police. We often, there's a thing with people I discuss, like we don't give agencies enough credit that they know more than we realize. I think sometimes we give them too much credit and they don't know as much as we think they do. And the
Maybe
psychology
the
there
truth
would
is
be to
somewhere in
keep us
between.
afraid. I think it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I think that you have to be on a watch list for someone to notice you immediately.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. Decentralization is the key going forward. My motto is always, decentralize, grow your own, teach your own, make your own, all of the above.
Right, right.
The more
And build
systems
your
that
own
you are dependent
communities.
on, the worse off you're going to be, especially nowadays. And that
If you
is
want to think about what's the problem with content creators? Going back to that, content creators naturally create communities. They don't want
yeah.
communities, right? They want us to be atomized.
This is great, Matthew. I never actually quite thought about that. That's true, though. Take every YouTube channel. For example, I follow some great guys, for example, fishing channels, how to fish, how to natural building, all of these RVers. There's loads of RVers. And it's a bit like a community. I hadn't thought of it quite like that, though. And I suppose that's how autonomy started, was through the Tragedy and Hope community. Yeah, it's definitely how it got started.
Absolutely.
People wanted the
Yeah,
truth.
absolutely.
Yeah. People wanted the truth. Tragedy and Hope offered the truth. Not only offered the truth, but offered people to analyze it and decide for themselves, is it true, and encouraged people and taught people how to think critically, to say, look, here it is, don't believe us, do your own research, what do you think? And there was opportunity for feedback. So open source alternative media is the way to go, because of websites like Tragedy and Hope, Corbett Report. He was a pioneer obviously in this field. And yeah, these are the very types of content creators that are being pushed to the side. So I'm optimistic about what's going to happen next. Library, Odyssey, BitChute. Wasn't BitChute started by Corbett Report listeners? I believe it was.
That is what I recall. I recall years ago hearing that one of his subscribers had created BitChute.
Yeah.
I was trying to get an audience with James the other day at the latest GTW.
Yeah.
Grand Theft World, for any of you viewers who don't know what GTW is.
Grand Theft World, Sunday nights, tune in.
and I try to be there. I think I've only missed one since it launched.
Yeah. Yeah. James was great. He's still, and his latest propaganda watch, he did a little segment on Grand Theft World, encouraging his viewers to check it out. Grand Theft World is, I think what Richard Grove is doing is, again, putting it all together. Fantastic. All the content creators, everyone who's in the, I don't know, how would you describe it, Matthew? I know I've got certain words, but I got to be careful. The community, the content creators, what is it we all have in common there at Grand Theft World?
Well, we're doing a meta-analysis of the alternative media.
Yeah. That's a very, very diplomatic description. I like it.
It is a news and reviews of what's been said in a discussion. It adds a level, because it's done as a forum, it adds a level of depth of analysis that you couldn't really get. And one thing I'm encouraging, because I'm on the production team, sort of on the back end, I don't actually do the editing, but I advise and I help write tools to help the production team. But I've also encouraged them to go look for smaller content creators, people who have different diverging viewpoints, and get that into the discussion, which I think is hard if you're just consuming, let's say that you're consuming Tim Pool. Well, you're in alt media, but Tim is just digesting what he gets off mainstream media. And as Lennon Honor observed years ago in his shows, he said we need to kind of step back on that and let's start talking about things that you don't find on mainstream media, and let's become our own media. That's what it's going to really require for us to be relevant, is to stop commenting on whatever stuff that the mainstream is talking about. Though sometimes it's right in front of us, so we do need to talk about it.
Yeah, it is interesting to analyze, to not only to question. You want to ask, why are they telling us this? What does it mean, and what are they not telling us? That kind of analysis. We've just added. MyTruthConduit.com has just been added to the Grand Theft World website, and we've added like Jack Spirko, and there's this girl who's coming onto the scene. Her name is, what's her name? Have you seen her stuff yet?
No, I haven't seen her stuff yet.
Yeah, she's really good.
Check it out.
She's really good. She kind of reminds me.
What's her angle?
Quick, witty, very compact. She'll bombard you with loads of information in a very clever and funny, sarcastic way, a bit like Carrie Wedler style. Speaking of Carrie Wedler, I need to reach out to her.
Oh yeah, actually, I was thinking of her. By the way, whenever you brought her up, that's exactly who I had in mind. She's very good. Very similar to Carrie Wedler, very clever. But she's very critical of the COVID-19 and the lockdowns and all that. That's been her focus, the mask debate and all of that. So Matthew, on Content Safe, who are some of your biggest clients then? Who were you Ricky
helping
Barandis,
out?
Ricky Barandis, and I'm supposed to be signing Sam Tripoli. He agreed in principle last week, but I'm still following up with him to get him completely onboarded. Sam, wherever you are, please contact me.
Well, he's always on the Ripple Effect every night. Well, every time Ricky has one, he seems to be on the Ripple Effect. You can definitely follow him. Yeah, there. But yeah, who else?
One of my early clients is a guy. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's an Orthodox Christian iconographer. His name is Jonathan Pageau.
No, I haven't heard of him. What's his angle?
This actually does a lot of cool stuff on symbols.
Yes, I like it.
Yeah, check him out. We've been redistributing him he was one of our first clients, actually. I've got Brett Bernard is one of our clients.
Richard Grove.
Right. Richard Grove and his group with Autonomy. We rebroadcast all the Do It Live stuff as well.
Derek Groves, Conscious Resistance.
Yep. We're redistributing his stuff as well. And I have another client in the light language world. Her name is Light Star. She's got a pretty good following, over 10,000. She's been a great client. I really enjoy talking with her.
So, okay, say a content creator, they've been axed from YouTube. They come to you, they say, what can we do? Where all do we, do you upload wherever they want, or do you make any suggestions? Or like you said, it's just tailored to each individual case, right?
We try to tailor to each individual case, but we will offer to redistribute to other platforms if they're unaware of them.
Yeah, cool.
And I keep my uploading. My bots are diversifying all the time. I'm having new bots written all the time. And we're also imagining other alternative pathways. So like Ernest Hancock, we've been talking to him about IPFS.
Yeah.
And we may be working with him to pull things off of IPFS and redistribute to platforms. Hopefully I'll be having a meeting with his technical guy next week. And
yeah, you were on the Ernie Hancock show in early December, weren't you?
I've been on there. This is the third time that I've been on there. Yeah, it was last week. Let me check my audio. Something's gotten quiet.
Sounds good. I hear you just fine.
I must have squeezed my button. Tiny. Okay, cool. We're good now.
What are some of the biggest challenges you're facing so far with Content Safe, if any?
Well, when Bros came on board, our problem was Facebook. For some reason, I had a whole month of having to rewrite my monitoring software for Facebook because things just kept changing. And I think I finally found a strategy that's pretty bulletproof. Although I woke up this morning and the monitor had crashed again. It crashed again for a different reason, but it wasn't Facebook's fault this time. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but we leveraged some technology, and that particular type of technology decided to go belly up overnight. But I'll be working on a remediation for that today. I know.
I was going to say, I know Derek's aware of the evils of Facebook. A lot of us are, but we're still using it. He's very good. He's got a big following there, and I mean, a lot of content creators.
His following on Odyssey is getting quite big, though.
Good. Like for example, Jack Spirko has left Facebook, but he hasn't left it. He pops in about once a week to bring his crowd over to MeWe and just to tell Facebook what crap they are, and says, come on, you're going to axe me, delete me. Come on. I'm over at MeWe. Come on over. And that's where he's at. And he's building his community over there. So a lot of content creators are, social media, from a social media point of view, are doing just that. And I know I want to leave Facebook. I have stopped posting so much. I'm just interacting, but it is my go-to where I communicate with certain people, like Ricky Varandas. If I'm going to write him, it's through Facebook, or John Bush. I should come up with a better way to talk to them, other than Mark Zuckerberg.
Want a recommendation?
Yeah.
I'm encouraging people to there are a lot of different encrypted chat programs, and I would recommend all of them
Yeah.
because I really do believe in diversification. But I would recommend Keybase.
I have heard of Keybase. I can't remember who was talking
Keybase.io.
about that.
Yeah.
I've only heard of
There
it
was
though.
someone on Autonomy who had a discussion about it. And
Maybe that's
I
where I
was
heard it.
intending to go back and listen.
Yeah.
But there's the biggies, Telegram, right?
Yeah.
Signal.
Yeah.
I would not recommend something like
What's up?
WhatsApp. I
Yeah.
would not recommend WhatsApp. I would not recommend, definitely not recommend WeChat.
I've never
But
heard of that one.
that's the Chinese version of
Yeah.
WhatsApp.
Interesting.
And I have to deal with that because I have clients in my other business. I have clients that deal with China, so I occasionally have to deal with WeChat.
It's a constant cat and mouse game, and it's going to be. It's not going to change. Maybe these platforms everyone's flocking to will get sucked in by the machine, but I would like to think there's always going to be opportunity to create more. To just keep metaphorically moving through the jungle.
If I think in the worst case, what we need to be ready for, and this is something I'll be talking more about in the future, there are technologies that are so encapsulated that they're practically impossible to take offline because they're designed to function even if they're not connected to the internet, if you can believe that.
Would IPFS be an example of that?
No, IPFS would not. There is a system called Patchwork.
Okay.
And the way Patchwork operates is it can be used from a key drive to a key drive if you need to.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to let's say someone who's doing van life and they didn't have internet all the time and they had their own private social network, they could find their internet and sync their Patchwork node and then unplug and be off the net. And then they just come in periodically and they sync themselves. Patchwork nodes are deliberately designed that they can be sprouted anywhere on the internet.
Pretty cool.
So they're the ultimate in decentralization. And I've been looking at Patchwork. I'm part of the board for a group called Darklance. And one of what we're trying to get funding together to do at Darklance is to build a completely decentralized freelancing portal.
I love it. Matthew, you are just an explosion of solutions. I knew you were an explosion of solutions. I just didn't know how, just to what extent that truth went. Cool. Patchwork nodes. I love it, man. It's all coming at me, there's so much out there. Innovation
one of the things I did
endless.
One of the things I did about 6 or 8 years ago was, as I was digesting the works of Richard and Mark Palacios and other people, was I started assembling an offline database of notes. And I can't do it. It's in my office upstairs, but I have a filing cabinet drawer full of 4x8 cards. And all of these have notes on shows I watched. And they also have notes on projects that I've found over the years. And this has been the basis. That's your notes, huh?
It is. Because I too said, this information is too valuable to be trusted digitally. So the really good stuff I would print out. I mean, I would print or take notes or
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and I think the guys that were into this early on had so much creative energy. I don't know. This is another reason I'm optimistic. It is because I think there are a lot of communities out there that are under our radar that we're not even aware that these guys are talking and that they're sharing concepts and that they're building stuff. They just aren't advertising it.
Yeah.
Or they're not advertising it well, let's just say.
Yeah. I've thought about that as well. I've asked, having conversations with people in autonomy. We're discussing this. I said, how many people out there are just really the silent majority is kind of what I'm getting at. Just when the rubber starts to really hit the road, it's going to be interesting. So yeah, a lot of.
Well, I was watching because I generally watch along a spectrum of viewpoints. And that doesn't mean I can tolerate everything. There are certain viewpoints that rankle me and make me angry, but I try not to get angry. I try to look across the spectrum of viewpoints. Since I was watching this group, and they were Trump supporters. I'm not a Trump supporter, but I'm not a Biden supporter either. And I was listening to them commenting. They were protesting outside a state representative's house, and I heard one of them pipe up and say, you might think you know what non-compliance looks like, but you're going to find out what it really looks like.
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting thing to hear someone shout out. You think you know what non-compliance looks like. You have no idea what non-compliance looks like. We're going to show you.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm with you. I'm not on both sides. I think all action should be voluntary, and that kind of by default eliminates any of that kind of statism, point of view. But I mean, there are, characters on the left that I definitely follow and listen to, like Chris Hedges. I find him interesting. Abby Martin, and then of course the Trump supporters on the right as well.
On
they
the
get
other side, yeah.
You've got to just be aware of where they get it right, where they get it wrong on both sides.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you think non-compliance looks like, Matthew?
I think it can take lots of different forms, and it can be. See, I've lived outside the U.S. for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And I've seen like my current, I've been living in the Philippines for 25 years. And I will see expats say, Filipinos are so compliant. I'm like, you really don't understand what you're talking about. They're not compliant at all. They can look compliant, but they're so non-compliant that they can make the whole system fall apart.
I hope they do.
But they can still, yeah.
Everywhere.
There are ways, and you can't. I heard someone put it this way. Someone I was listening to just today, they said, if you really want to expose a dictator, let them show themselves as dictators. He said, let them beat you up. It's not going to help them to beat you up. It's going to make people turn away.
Yeah.
There were Roman writers. I think it was either Roman writers or early Christian writers who said that the persecution of early Christians was so bad that the non-Christians started having sympathy for them.
Yeah, I've heard of that as well.
And that was right, and that was the model in early Christianity, was not violent rebellion. It was just complete non-compliance.
So
that's what we're looking at.
That ties into the whole UBI stimulus check that they're trying to do. They're trying to buy everybody in order to control them. But that's another topic. That
can actually be used against them.
Oh, it definitely will be. Absolutely. Again, back to what I was saying earlier. You take that check if you want to, but as long as you do not depend on it, the day you depend on it, man, you're going to be, and as long as there's no strings attached, But
I heard someone comment the other day that they asked, why is the stock market booming right now? And they said, because people are taking that stimulus check and putting it in the stock market. What else would a sensible person do with it?
Yeah.
Because that stimulus check isn't going to make you, it's not going to make you money, right? What else are you going to do with it? How are you going to make money off a stimulus check? It's not designed for you to make
I'll tell
money.
you how you should. I'll tell you what you should do with that stimulus check. You should invest in Richard Grove's autonomy class. That's why.
See, that is an example of how you take a stimulus check and make it into a positive
Invest
thing.
in
You go out and
yourself.
buy some crypto.
Yeah. Buy
Right?
crypto, buy
Exactly.
metals, invest in your business by investing in
Mhm.
content safe to save you time.
Right.
That leads to my next question,
Exactly.
actually. Okay. What would you say? How many hours would you realistically save content creators by
I think that content
with this
creators
service?
underestimate the amount. I think that content creators underestimate how much time they waste
Yeah.
with their content. I think that we could easily save a content creator 2 hours a day. If they're publishing daily, we're saving them 2 hours a day. And for some content creators, we're saving them 4 or 5 hours a day. Especially those that have funding and they have staff. And when we were talking with Ernest Hancock the other day, Ernest doesn't upload his own videos. It's his wife that does it.
Yeah.
His
Donna,
wife
I've met
doesn't
her.
like uploading videos, right? Yeah, Donna, and she's like, "How much time does your wife spend?" And she's like, "Too much time." She said, she said, "I have to go back to BitChute and make sure that it didn't fail to upload on BitChute." And like, you know what? I can liberate 3 or 4 hours of her time each day, and she can focus on doing more productive things.
Time
And that's
is our greatest asset.
if you were going to think about censorship resistance and efficiency, that's what we're selling.
I love it. I definitely think it's a fantastic idea, and I just see it as something. It's an inevitable conclusion for content creators to start taking up this kind of service. You know, I think it's such a great idea. How did you come up with it? You and Daryl Becker sitting around one day drinking beers, and you said, "You know what?"
Nah. This is Daryl came in a little late to the game to help me out. He came in about 2 years ago, but Content Safe has its origin way before that.
Yeah.
Early 20-teens, I was getting into the alt community, and I recognized, like yourself, that there was a lot of valuable content that could be censored. I was already convinced that there was going to be censorship in 2012. So I started saving videos. And I started writing little scripts that would create BitTorrent files for people like Brett Venant and Mark Palacios and all that. And I would publish their stuff out on these like the Pirate Bay or Kick-Ass Torrents was one of my primary ones.
LimeWire, Vooz.
Right. All of those types of tech. And it started to evolve to actually I could see how this could be a tool for content creators. And then it really solidified in one of the first business interviews that Richard Grove did up before Autonomy was launched. He interviewed me, and in it, I shared the concept before we even had the name. I shared the concept, and he said, "I would buy that."
Yeah.
And it was from there that I started seriously building the software and the interfaces. And about a year ago, it was whenever Autonomy came in and partnered with me for marketing.
Yeah, it's just such a great idea. And I remember on Union of the Unwanted when you guys were talking about it last week. How many people were there? It was like 10, 12. There was all these little
squares. I think it was like 12.
Quite a few of the other people were like, "Oh, talk to me, man. That sounds good. That's a great idea." Every time that I've brought it up, people are saying, "What a good idea." So,
well, yeah. I tell you, I've been wall-to-wall interviews and talks ever since.
Good. That's great.
Yeah.
Do you have someone listening? What's the easiest way that they could find how to get Content Safe?
Go to contentsafe.co and schedule an appointment, and we'll see about onboarding you.
So an appointment, and they'll get on a call with you or Daryl, and that's how it goes. Yeah,
we're going to qualify you.
Yeah.
We have a little survey form you fill out, then we're going to call and qualify you and see what the best way it is we can help you, because we do need to understand what your workflow is like. I found that most content creators are very similar. Some people worry that trying to address the peculiarities of content creators is inefficient. I don't really feel that that's the case. I really think that there's enough technical sophistication out there that we can accommodate a lot of different workflows. So I'm trying to make this as seamless as possible for my content creators.
Excellent. Well, Matthew Raymer, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I'm quite good. I've really enjoyed this interview, and I know we initially said, well, maybe it'll be 30 minutes. I thought, nah, I can't get in a call for less than an hour.
No, there's just too much going on. Yeah. I always initially tell people, look, 30, 45 minutes is, if that's all right with you, because some people may have that in mind, but if, I'm always happy to go however long.
Well, it was a pleasure. And if you want to have me back on sometime in the future, that's quite fine.
Yeah. And I will definitely see you in next day or two. We'll talk again. But I just want to thank you very much. I've learned so much in this hour that I didn't think I was going to learn, and so I hope people who are listening feel the same. And I'm going to definitely include everything that we've talked about with links in the original post at truthconduit.com for people to check everything out that we've spoken about, mainly, of course, contentsafe.co. So, Matthew Raymer, thank you very much.
Walking down the street, the children play. For them, it's just another day. The future's reflected in their parents' faces, who chose to stay on in this place where they were born, went to school, got married, had kids, like their grandparents before them did. Got to escape, before it's too late. Although today I could say that I really will miss the when Santa.
You've been listening to truthconduit.com with Chris McMillan. Go to the subscribe page and sign up to get notifications of the latest posts. And check out the support page to help keep it going.
Yeah, I've got a friend in Jesus Christ. I've got a friend in Jesus Christ, and Krishna and Buddha and my bartender.
Have you found that your skills aren't matching up with the challenges ahead? Here are 19 essential skills for success that school never taught you. Get your free copy by following the link below or visit getautonomy.info/19skills.